in the ancient world. When gods walked among mortals and the line between heaven and earth was thin, there lived a man named Sisyphus. He was not born into power, he built it. He founded the great city of Corinth, carved from stone and sea, and ruled it with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue. People said Sisyphus was the wisest of men. The gods said he was the most dangerous, for in a world ruled by divine power, wisdom could be a weapon, and Sisyphus wielded it without fear. He loved control. He believed that destiny was not written by gods or stars, but by the will of men who dared to challenge them. While others prayed, Sisyphus planned. While others feared Zeus, he studied his weaknesses. He was clever, charming, and ruthless, a man who could turn punishment into opportunity, and in time he would commit an act that shook Olympus itself. It began with a secret. One day Zeus, ruler of the heavens, took the river god Sisyphus' daughter Aegina for himself. Sisyphus searched the earth in rage, calling out to the winds, to the sea, to every creature for an answer. But no one dared speak, no one except Sisyphus. Zeus had given Sisyphus rain for his city, and in return Sisyphus owed him silence. But Sisyphus was never loyal to anyone but himself. When Sisyphus arrived in Corinth, desperate and grieving, Sisyphus whispered the truth. He told him where Zeus had hidden his daughter, in exchange for a spring of fresh water that would bless his city forever. When Zeus heard what had been done, thunder rolled across the sky. The king of the gods sent Thanatos, the god of death, to chain Sisyphus and drag him to the underworld. But when death arrived, Sisyphus greeted him not with fear, but with curiosity. "Show me," he said, "how these chains work." Death, amused by the mortal's calm, demonstrated. In a flash, Sisyphus snapped the chain shut around Death himself. Thanatos was trapped, and for the first time in history, no one could die. Warriors bled but did not fall. The gods watched in horror as the balance of the world broke. Ares, the god of war, grew furious. What is a god of war when no man can die? He found Thanatos and tore the chains apart, freeing him, and Sisyphus was finally captured. He was dragged to the underworld to face judgment, but even death was not enough to outsmart Sisyphus. Sisyphus had whispered to his wife, Merope, "When I die, do not bury me. Leave my body unburied and naked in the town square," and so she did. When Sisyphus reached the underworld, he approached Persephone, queen of the dead, with tears in his eyes. He told her his wife had broken sacred law, had failed to honor him with a proper burial. "I must return," he pleaded, "only for a moment." To punish her and perform the rites myself, Persephone, moved by his sorrow, allowed it. Sisyphus returned to the world of the living and never came back. He lived again in Corinth, ruling, smiling, building, pretending death had never found him. He saw the sun rise and set, drank wine, watched ships return home, and felt alive in every sense of the word. But the gods never forget, and no man escapes his fate forever. Zeus sent Hermes, the messenger swift as wind, to drag Sisyphus back to the underworld by force. There would be no more tricks, no more words, no more escape. When Sisyphus finally stood before the gods of Olympus, there was no anger left in him, only silence. He had seen everything, life, death, love, victory, loss, and now he waited for judgment. The gods spoke not of mercy, but of irony. They gave him a punishment that would mock everything he ever stood for, his ambition, his pride, his cleverness. They took him to a vast empty plain. In its center stood a mountain, tall, endless, unmoving. At its base lay a boulder, heavy as fate itself. "This is your task," said Zeus. "You will push this stone to the top. When it reaches the summit, your labor will be complete." But when Sisyphus pushed the stone for the first time, when sweat mixed with blood and his breath burned his lungs, he learned the truth. Each time the boulder neared the peak, it trembled and rolled back down. Every time he succeeded, the mountain stole it away. Every time he believed, the world betrayed him. That was his eternity. At first he raged, he cursed the gods, he shouted into the wind, "Why give me hope only to take it away?" But the wind never answered. The mountain did not care. The rock only waited. Days passed, years blurred, time lost its meaning, and in that endless repetition, something strange began to happen. Sisyphus stopped cursing. He stopped asking why, because he realized there was no one to answer, and in that silence he found something the gods could never imagine: peace. The gods had designed his punishment to break him, but it did the opposite. By stripping him of reward, they stripped him of fear. By giving him a task with no end, they freed him from the illusion of success. He understood the climb itself was his life. The summit didn't matter. The gods didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was his will to keep pushing. Every morning Sisyphus placed his hands on the stone, feeling its rough surface, its cold defiance, and began again. Each step, each breath was an act of rebellion. The gods could control his fate, but they could not control his mind. And in that quiet defiance, Sisyphus became something more than a man. He became a symbol of all who struggle knowing they may never win, of all who fight battles they can never finish, yet keep fighting anyway. Because maybe the purpose of life isn't to reach the top, but to keep climbing even when you know you'll fall.